Well, thank you so much for tuning in to Morning Live. Now, after the withdrawal of former National Assembly Speaker Baleka Mbete and former Home Affairs Minister Malusi Gigaba from the ANC's parliamentary list, there have been a fair amount of chatter as to who will be assigned to what portfolio after the swearing in later this morning. And also under question, of course, is what guiding principles will be used in electing leaders into the 230 ANC seats. And here to chat to us about this is ANC Veteran Mavuso Msimang, who is also someone who has shared his views regarding his party's parliamentary list. Thanks so much for coming through.
Thanks for the invitation.
So let's start with the most obvious headlines. Baleka Mbete, Malusi Gigaba withdrawing from that list. Were you surprised at all by that? And do you welcome that?
Very surprised by Baleka. I'm very happy that Malusi did. I don't know what the reasons are for their withdrawal.
So there is, of course, speculation that they were probably seeing the writing on the wall that they would be backbenchers and perhaps deciding not to go that route.
What a real pity that people think work in Parliament should be defined by being a backbencher or non-backbencher. It's already a serious honor for anybody to be elected as a member of Parliament representing the people. Some must be chosen for leadership in Parliament, others in government. But I would hope that if people thought they had something to provide for the nation, they should stay and do their jobs. If the reason is that they fear that they might be backbenchers, that's a shame.
So, as the veterans in the African National Congress, you've been very vocal, very outspoken about especially issues of integrity, of morality in terms of the list of people that the ANC decides to send to represent the party in the National Assembly and other structures as well. So given the election outcome, the ANC down from 249 seats in the National Assembly to 230, so you're sending 19 fewer people to Parliament. But what is your take on the ultimate list of people who are going?
The important question to ask, for me to ask for all of us is, the ANC is down in terms of its popularity with the electorate from 249 seats to 230. There are a number of reasons for why we fared relatively badly. In fact, I'm very surprised that we even got as many, given the things I'm going to say very quickly. One is we've had an atrocious level of service delivery at municipal and other levels. People have been very unhappy with that. The other thing is that the levels of employment are very high. Many people, particularly young ones, are out of jobs. So you don't like a government, you don't want to return a government that failed to do that. Third, and not least, is the fact that a number of senior members of the ANC in government and in the party have been seriously implicated in corruption. Now, in campaigning and requesting people to allow the ANC to go back and govern, in fact, it was a please forgive us, we did this wrong. The ANC undertook to do a number of things to correct what went wrong. But one of the low-hanging fruits is dealing with the issue of corruption. There is a number of people who have been tainted very, very publicly in the commissions that were held with corruption. We don't know if they are guilty or not. But let's forget about this crazy argument of innocent until guilty, therefore you must continue where you are. We have integrity commissions in the organization. Their duty is to look at the integrity, the ethical behavior of those members. What are we saying? Anybody, however competent, who is tainted must bide their time. You wish they could do this voluntarily until such time as they are cleared. It's not as if you had some crazy people choosing to accuse others of receiving bribes from them. It's statements made under oath in the commissions, and the least that we can do is investigate the veracity of this, and when we are comfortable with that, give people the positions.
But given what you've just said, and you've been very consistent in that message as the veterans in the party, it would though seem as though your pleas, have fallen on deaf ears as far as those who are in charge of running the party are concerned. Because if we look at the list of people going to Parliament and we look at the Integrity Commission and what they have found, there still are quite a number of people on that list who are going to Parliament.
It's not too late to do the right thing. The local government elections are taking place in 2 years. What we promised we would do right, we are being called upon to start correcting now. If we must keep our faith. We must keep our promise to the people. I heard in the news today that the president says there will be regional representation, there will be gender. All of those things are really good, and we applaud him for this. And it's time you got fresh, younger, and more gender-balanced people in Parliament and in Cabinet. Of the 230 we have, there must be very, very many who fit that bill. What we should not do is to make a compromise with the implicated, with the tainted. I think there is enough number of people among the 230.
When you say we should not make a compromise with tainted people, what exactly are you talking about?
What I'm saying is that you can get in a competent person among those 230. You'll get young people, you'll get female and male people, you'll get people from different provinces. All of them fit the bill. But if any one of them is tainted, please ask them to wait until such time that this cloud is cleared.
And that, of course, is the difficulty here, because what I was hearing you say when you said that was that you saying if people are tainted in any way, shape or form, if the Integrity Committee has perhaps pronounced against them in some way or shape, then they should not be afforded a position in the National Assembly, provincial legislature, or to any other key government position. But it reminds me of something that Aubrey Machikli, the political analyst, wrote some years ago, where he says the ANC has become adept at recycling failure. So because the ANC has access to the levers of power, they are able to move someone perhaps from a high-profile position and recycle them elsewhere. How many people have we seen the ANC send into ambassadorial posts just to remove them from the immediate eye of the storm, but recycle them elsewhere?
No, absolutely, you are right. The position is not changing. I don't know, unfortunately, the people who were identified by the Integrity Commission as not suitable to be on the list were not made public. As far as I know, we don't quite know who. People then were sent to Parliament, I think, against whatever recommendations the Integrity Commission. That was unfortunate. That's the starting point. But it's never too late to do the right thing. We have a proportional system of representation here. If in the fullness of time, and the fullness of time must come very quickly, some of the people sitting in Parliament today are tainted, please move them out. In the list of the proportional, number 31 moves down to number 30, etc., etc. There is an embarrassment of good, competent people in the African National Congress, young, female, coming from all over South Africa, who would do the ANC a hell of a lot of pride if they were appointed to responsible positions.
There is, of course, also, I beg your pardon, there has been concern raised that if some of those members that you talk about who have been tainted are withdrawn from these lists, that this could lead to a split in the ANC. Is this something you've mulled over?
It would be really sad if the ANC can only survive because it has to accommodate people like this. It would be sad. Better with a smaller, split ANC that is serious in its commitment to the promises it makes to the people than keeping everybody together under the tent because you are afraid. I don't think it's a question of factions. It's a question of the good people, at least that people we know nothing wrong about them in terms of their ethical behavior, and the ones who are not. the assumption, of course, would be that everybody is competent for the job that they've been given. But you can't, as an organization, say, we will keep these nasty people because if we threw them out, you know, the organization could split. The sooner it did, the better. If, in fact, the issue is about accommodating crazy people for the sake of unity.
And it goes back to that question that was so pivotal in the lead up to the Polokwane conference about the for the war for the soul of the ANC, waging for that. And it would seem that there are two competing factions here waging that war for the soul of the organization.
I mean, journalists and people generally are quite correct, I suppose, in terms of the English language to talk about factions. There are people who are trying very hard to do the right thing in the ANC. I wouldn't consider them a faction. I'm not a factionalist. I support the leadership that was elected in Nasrec. That doesn't put me into a faction. I think the factionalists are the people who have allegiances to anything outside of what is accepted. Anyway, call them what you will. If fighting for the soul of the ANC means evil forces want to get in, let's not accommodate them. Then the soul of the ANC is saved.
So the veterans in the party,
Yes.
the integrity committee in the party, they have been vocal for quite some time. But how much power do you actually wield? Do you have the ear, for example, of the president-elect in terms of what his cabinet will ultimately look like, especially to paraphrase what you said earlier, where you went into an election as the African National Congress pleading with the nation to forgive you, to give you one more chance to get this right. What do you say to the president? And is he amenable to listening to what you are saying?
I hope he is. I hope he is. It's not a promise that he made to the veterans. It's a promise he made to South Africans. It's a promise he made in particular to those who voted for the ANC because they believed what he, Cyril Ramaphosa, was saying. I have found a lot of corruption. There is proof that there is a lot of corruption in the country, and we know it's not good for the nation. It's not good for our party. I will do all I can to fight against corruption. I will not entertain it. He has said so, and we applaud him for that. I hope he's still sticking to that. I think he is.
And of course, the difficulty is we can talk about parliamentary lists and, you know, begging people to withdraw if they are tainted as the ANC. But when you have allegations, serious allegations of corruption and malfeasance, and I say allegations because that's what they are, against people in the top leadership structure of the organization, how do you deal with that?
You deal with that by marshalling all the good forces to fight against the evil of corruption coming to the highest level of the organization. It sounds impossible until you try to do it. If you actually decided, with good reason, taking your cue from what the Integrity Commission is doing and all other sources of credible information, that it would do the ANC and South Africa good to hold this person off. Who knows? Once they are cleared, we're both agreeing that it's allegations. Once these people are cleared, you're in government. There's so many things you can give people to do. So many. We don't know, anybody, any position. It's not as if so and so is no longer a minister, they have been robbed of anything. It's not an entitlement.
But there is a sense of entitlement. I'm reminded of an interview that I did on radio a couple of weeks ago where we were talking to one of the military veterans leaders in KwaZulu-Natal, where he clearly stated that they had been waiting for jobs for so long. They sacrificed for this country, and therefore they are almost justifying why they could go in and hold municipalities hostage, to give them jobs, to give them contracts, because they have made sacrifices for this country. So there is a certain sense of entitlement amongst your members.
It's sad. They should be disabused. No one is entitled any more than another to any job or privileged position. we have been suffering a little bit from the good political thinking, the political school that we were raised in the African National Congress. No, fighting for liberation was something that came out of your conscience. It was a sacrifice. It was not with a view to one day being made a minister of so many affairs or getting a job in the municipality. Yes, I think there are certain things that are set aside and recognized for people who didn't get an opportunity that should happen to take their children to school, and such other such sacrifices. They are recognized in a particular way. But it would be absolutely wrong, and let's disabuse anybody of the notion that because they belong to the winning party in the liberation struggle or in elections, they're entitled above other competent, equal citizens to certain rights.
Mr. Msimang, it is 7 o'clock, but I just want to end this where we started,
sure,
where you spoke about service delivery. So given the list of people who are going to Parliament, who are being deployed elsewhere in provincial legislatures, do you think that regardless of who is on that list, is actually going to make a difference to the pattern, the trend we've seen in service delivery or the lack thereof over the past 25 years?
I really hope we were to start yesterday. Service delivery is not about ordering somebody, now you must work well. You've got to put in place a system, a team of people, A, with the competence, B, with the commitment, and then with the resources and other support that's required to improve service delivery. And really, you will see there will be serious problems if we don't start those preparations today for 2021. And I don't think really we should be working for elections. It's a high calling, this thing, of being a servant of the people. You could go to the private sector and make a lot of money, and you're offering a skill. But, you know, if you choose to go to public service, it must be because there is a calling, in as much as people choose to be nurses, to be teachers. You don't do it really for money. You must be paid, and paid well, I think, whenever possible. So I really think that the ANC that is taking shape today does really seriously start working towards service delivery, improved service delivery.
Mr. Mavuso Msimang, thanks so much for stopping by this morning.
Thank you very much for the invitation.
And that was ANC veteran Mavuso Msimang. Thanks for chatting to us about the list process and where it is right now in terms of members of Parliament and provincial legislatures being sworn in today. And that brings us into news time.